my place. I want to thank my sponsor, Goody's Granola, for renewing my contract for a second season. Goody's Granola, the snack you didn't know you were waiting for, and the little cookie in the bag. Goody's Granola, you gotta try it. Hi, I'm Goody, co-founder of Goody's Granola, along with my son, and we're back here at my place, and we have a special guest today. This is a gentleman that I met, about 1958 in Bayview Projects. We both grew up there, and we didn't really hang out together. We knew each other, say hello, we shared some classes together, and I met him again on Facebook, and the guy is really unbelievable. He's got terrific businesses, and he's got a very, very good woodworking business, a very artistic guy. I didn't know him then like I know him now, and I want you to meet a new friend of mine, actually, Mr. ALAN ADLER. Hello, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
How are you, brother?
It's
long
been a
time.
long-
It's
I
been
know,
a long,
it's been
long
amazing.
time. How have you been? man?
Unfortunately, we just missed becoming very good friends.
Well, we
back
got
then.
it now. Better late than never. You
Yeah.
know, it's like an amazing thing to
It is amazing.
connect after all of these years. And we connected actually on Facebook. He was showing his wares, which we have here on the table, and it was just beautiful stuff. And we connected, and here he is. Anyway, have you been? And first thing I want to do is talk about Bayview. I want to do this quick because we got a lot of stuff on the table here we want to get to. What did you think of Bayview? I know we have different perspectives of
Yeah,
Bayview.
it was interesting growing up. I have a better perspective now, having been through business, children, homes, and stuff like that. I felt it was safe, and I felt safe, and sometimes I didn't feel safe. So there was a bit of anxiety about that. And I think the biggest issue I had with Bayview, which you don't know when you're there, is that you don't know what you don't know. And there was limited information. So the people in the building, it was lower middle class, I say, and you didn't have exposure to very interesting people. You wouldn't know an author, you wouldn't know an architect, you wouldn't know an engineer. You knew someone who sold shoes, someone who was a government worker like my father. So you didn't have the mentors to help you get ahead in life. And I didn't find that till much later.
Well, at least you found it.
I did find it.
I thought growing up in Bayview was fantastic. You had 72 families in the building, basically all lower middle class people, all had 2-3 kids, almost all the same age, and you had like 200-300 friends
Exactly.
in the building. If it was raining out, if it was snowing out,
Go down to the lobby.
you were all over the building. It was just a great experience. I remember they had 4 different color buildings, bricks. There's blue, they had
We were yellow.
red,
I was
yellow,
yellow.
and I think they had green. And they had this huge grass knoll in the middle of the project.
I used to mow that. I had a summer job mowing that.
Well, you were always making money.
It would take 3 days.
We were playing, we were having snowball fights, all the different buildings against each other.
Right.
It was great.
It was very tribal.
Yeah, it was. It was.
was amazing.
It probably still is. Schools, I remember, you didn't go, but I went to 115 first, because they were building 272.
Right.
But the good thing about Bayview is it was brand new.
Yes.
I mean, you went in there and you felt like you were moving uptown. Like I came from Canarsie. I remember it was either 3 or 5 people in a room, and my dad used to put us in this car, and we would watch Bayview being built from the inner skeleton structure till it was finished. And it was great. I mean, we had a great time. It was unbelievable.
It was interesting for like Brooklyn in a city, and it was surrounded by a swamp.
Well, it was
And
like suburbs. I remember there were farms out there.
Yeah, and we used to catch tadpoles and frogs.
Frogs and snakes. Yeah, we used to do all
Bring
of
them
that
home. I
shit.
had an aquarium.
Yeah, well, it was like the trees were brand new. The trees you see there now, we saw them plant 50 some odd years ago. Anyway, let's progress a little bit. 272 down to John Wilson,
Yep.
Canarsie High School. First year too.
Wonderful experience.
A great experience. Now, I had the honor with two of my friends of being the first senior social seniors there. We had dropped out of high school in 1967, and I joined the Army, wanted to fly helicopters, become a warrant officer, until a Air Force captain told me that,
First to die.
3 missions. They had a life expectancy of 3 missions in Nam. So I went back to school and graduated in 68, should have graduated in 67. And it was a great experience, but you know, you have like an aha moment, which I'm going to ask you about yours, is when I went to school in Iowa and I found theater. And it was crazy because you were in an environment where nobody knew you. It was like they knew you for what you were now.
Right.
And it was very cool.
Starting
man.
over.
It kind of freed my soul. I mean, it made me feel whole. But after Canarsie, give me some of your experiences with college and your workload and all of this stuff.
So, from Canarsie High School, I went to Stony Brook University to pursue an engineering degree.
Long Island.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also a new school, you know, living in mud.
Yeah, okay.
But that was an interesting experience, and it was during the whole time of the war protest. But this relates to Canarsie, so I always thought I wanted to be an engineer. And when I got into an engineering school, I hated it. And it wasn't what I thought it was, engineering. I thought it was a very creative process. And it was more of a technical process to make sure things work. And the creative people were the architects and the designers. But I didn't know that. I didn't know those people, that job existed. I thought that was an engineering job.
No, it's...
So I dropped out of engineering, and I was a little bit lost, and I did the psychology thing and the political science thing, and I said, I'll go to law school. So I applied to law school the senior year. I pull a very low number in the lottery. I panic, and I joined the National Guard unit.
Ah, okay. I got 325 in the lottery.
I was like in the 60s.
Yeah, they never got past like 180
Yeah.
or some shit. Like
So I panicked. I found an armory on Long Island, knocked on the door. I said to the guy I want to join. He said, be here tomorrow. I said, can we wait like a couple of weeks? And he said, you be here tomorrow or it's never. And it was a never situation. You had to know someone at that time to get into the National Guard. Went the next day, he signed in like 80 guys. They sent me 4 months through the summer to Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Oh my God.
It was all Vietnam training. And there I said, I don't want to be a lawyer. So whatever that Army experience is and growing up, that was the moment I said, I can't do what everyone expects me to do. I got to do what I want to do.
Yeah, right on. That's what you got to do.
So
Good
I
for
wrote-
you.
I
That was
called-
an aha moment.
That was definitely the moment.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. So I I called Karen, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, and I said, pull my applications. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to art school.
Wow.
And she said, okay. And she was very supportive. And I applied to Pratt and Parsons, and I got into both. And Pratt had a master's degree in package design within the industrial design group. And they said, you're going to love this. There were 20 kids, 10 from marketing orientation, 10 from art orientation, would get a master's in package design with the industrial design program. And it was like the best time of my
You're
life.
definitely pulling this thing together.
Best time of
Yeah.
my life.
So who'd you go to work for after you graduated?
So while I'm in school, it was a night and day thing. I started knocking on doors. And I would knock on doors of the biggest design firms, industrial design, and they'd say, we'd give you a job.
Good. Wow.
And it was like, I don't deserve that job. And they said, no, you're in Pratt. You deserve that job. Your work is good. And I just felt very insecure about it. And then I did the advertising route. I was offered jobs at Y&R and stuff like that. And I looked there, and they were going to make me a designer on a table, big bullpens, before computer. And I looked, and I couldn't see the end of the room. And I said, I'm not going to be drawing an A or an H all day. This is going to drive me nuts. I wind up at a place that was designing cosmetic bottles. And the guy says, I want you, and I'll make you a designer. And he brings me into the design department. And from there, I saw all the excitement was in sales. The salesmen were calling on Avon, Revlon, Helen Rubinstein, and they would take me out. And I said, this is where I want. This is what I want to do, sales. And I have this design ability that I could talk to the client and have the whole solution in my head by the time I get back, instead of being what these other salesmen were doing, was just throwing the job on the table and say, you figure it out.
Oh, okay.
So this went on for 2 or 3 years. The guy paid for the rest of my education. He was wonderful.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I went to him and I said, I want to be a salesman. And he says, not now. I just put on so-and-so. I went back 6 months. I want to be a salesman. And he says, no, I'm not ready to do that. I went back 3rd time and said, I want to be a salesman or I have to leave. He said, I'll see you.
No kidding.
And I was on the street.
All right.
Just getting married.
Happened to me a couple of times in the car business.
I couldn't believe it. The guy had paid for my education. He was a mentor. He was terrific. Knocked on doors again. Got a job in a plastic factory. I'm learning how to sell finally. And I had a few customers who'd say, you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. If you do this, I'll give you the order. And I'm saying, boy, it's not just giving a price. It's building relationships.
Absolutely. If they like you, you got it.
It's all about
They
like.
have to like you.
It's all
That's
about
right.
liking and relationships. The price is secondary. You can get past
Well,
those.
people want to do business with people that
they
they
like.
like, they feel comfortable with,
Absolutely.
they trust. I mean, when I was in the car business, you had a lot of sleazy guys there, and they didn't get good reports. I mean, they give them
Right.
reviews, and they never saw them again. Some of these people.
So while I was out on the street walking, I went to 42nd Street. You remember they had these big storefronts, and they said, we hire, we'll get you a
Right.
job.
Mhm.
So I knock on the door, and I go up a 2nd floor up, and there's this kid there, something Kennedy, during the whole Kennedy era. And he says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be in packaging. He says, I got jobs for you. I said, that's great. He picks up the yellow pages
Call these
and looks
people.
on packaging and starts calling people. He calls a guy in Secaucus who's a paper mill. And the guy gives me an interview. I go down there, and the guy takes me around, and he said, I'd give you the job, but I'm not hiring you. I said, why not? He says, you'll hate it. It was just selling rolls of paper.
Oh, okay.
He says, you're going to hate it, but what I'll do is you give me 12 resumes, I'll send them to my friends.
Very cool. You had help.
Yeah, and from a man I didn't know. And, is this going to happen, or does it wind up in the basket? So, meanwhile, I get a job in Yonkers in a plastics factory. And I'm there about 6 months, and a guy calls me and says, I got your resume. And I said, did you get it from Secaucus? He says, no, I got it from so-and-so. So it moved a few times.
Wow.
And he says, come down, I want to talk to you. I wound up working for him for 13 years.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Okay, now, going to get to this stuff, but this is leading into the businesses that you started.
Right.
Now, we're going to, remember, have to make this a little bit quick because I really want to concentrate on this. But a little background, you go from 13 years with this other guy into your first business, which is a packing business.
Packaging.
Factory, you have a factory, you're making your own stuff.
Well, not yet.
Okay, well, so you were doing someone else's stuff. You were selling for
I'm
yourself.
brokering. I was designing. So what happens, 13 years, we had a falling out. I had to leave. And this is 1985, and I formed a company called Source Packaging. And the idea was that we would provide packaging for companies in need of packaging.
Right.
It was mostly electronics. So it was the computer guys, it was instrument guys, stuff you wouldn't see
But
in
you
retail.
were outsourcing that. You weren't.
I would design it, and outsource it.
Okay, now we get that. Now we go into the niche that I think is amazing, that you started this case business.
Well, so that was out of the same thing. So now all the packaging, and we're doing a lot of packaging in 85 to about 90, and it starts moving to North Carolina. All the electronics people start going to North Carolina.
Okay.
And then it starts moving to China. So we had our niche, we were doing presentation packaging for cosmetic companies, protective packaging for people like Western Union and the military, and cases for people who had reusable packaging. And we saw the future as cases. And we morphed the company from Source Packaging to Cases by Source.
Now, who is we? You?
I had a partner at the time.
Okay, so
And
you
our
and your
sales
partner
force.
started this business of making your own cases now.
Well, we're brokering them at the
You
same
still
time.
break on. So when did it morph into your own product?
It was a slow process. So we went out and we bought a CNC machine, $100,000, and I thought I'd use it.
I don't know, what kind of machine is that?
Computer generated,
Okay.
and it
This is
cuts
for people that don't know.
computer
what that's
router.
Okay.
So it was very expensive investment. I thought I'd use it just for samples because I was waiting too long for our vendors to provide samples. I figured we'd design our samples, we'd make our sample, we'd have it all fixed, get approval from the customer, and then have someone else make the product, sell it in our name. And I didn't know we were going to turn into a production company, but we did. From making our own samples, we decided to start making our own product. And pre-COVID, we bought a building. We finally got away from the landlords. We bought a building, and we put our machinery in there, and we're producing crazy stuff.
And you're still doing that today?
I retired. My son's running the company now.
All right. Now, that morphed into your woodworking thing.
Right.
Now, as far as I know, you were telling me that you gave your son the business, and he's running the business. You needed something to do.
Right. So during this transition, the succession plan, what am I going to do?
I don't know. Tell us.
So for 30 years, I'm making stuff for other people. And my creative need is being satisfied making designs for you, for your bag, for goodies, whatever. Now I'm going to leave the business. What am I going to do? So I started reaching back to the Pratt experience and what I did. So I used to silkscreen. I used to paint. I used to do ceramics. And I said, I got to pick something that I can do with my time so I just don't turn into a guy on the couch watching TV drinking beer.
Right.
So I walk into a gallery on Long Island, and it's all contemporary paintings, and there's one pedestal, and there's a bowl on it, and it's just lit up.
And you go, aha.
I said, what is... I didn't know yet, but it probably took about 10 hours. I said, what is that? The gallery owner comes over. He says, I see you're fascinated by that. I said, how much and what is it? He said, it's wood turning. It's a guy, Ron Kent from Hawaii, and he does a special process to wood where it looks like tortoiseshell. And I said, how much? He said, $3,000.
Oh.
And I said, okay, I'll talk to you. Give me your card. So we walk out, and Karen says, what are you going to do? Maybe you should buy it, it's the transition. And I said, nope. For $3,000, I could figure this out. I'll buy the machinery. I'll take lessons. I'll make my own bowls. So I then took a lesson, two-day lesson, and I went in with the attitude, either I love it or I hate it. I walked out with a $2,000 lathe, and it was an addiction process.
All right.
And I never stopped.
That's fantastic. That's great. I want to talk about some of this stuff here, because you didn't start at this level, I would assume. What are your earliest works here? Do you have anything that...
Well, I'm pretty eclectic. So when you start turning, there are people who just make pens. Then there are people who just make bowls. So it would be this shape, right? And I wasn't happy with that. and I started to do research, and I went to conventions, and I met people who were doing that bowl and then carving it.
Look at the pencils. There are pencils here.
Yeah, that's a signature piece.
Very beautiful piece.
So for me, the bowl wasn't enough. How do I decorate it? How do I elevate it? How do I make it mine? How do I get my voice into it? So I'm playing around. I'm struggling a little. I take a lesson with a man named David Ellsworth, who invented this process of creating a vessel with a tiny hole. And he was a ceramist. So in ceramics, it's kind of easy. You keep pushing the material. And you can always add material, ceramics.
Right.
Wood, you always take away material.
Right.
Wood always gets smaller. It never gets bigger. And David, as a ceramist, said, how do I achieve that in wood? And he invented a tool and a process, and it changed all of wood turning from making bowls to an art form. And the interesting thing about this process is he also calls it a spirit bowl. And the Native Americans believed that after death, the people come back and visit, and they need a safe place to rest.
So this is all hollow in the inside.
This is all hollow.
Beautiful.
And so it's a spirit bowl, and it's very comfortable to
What kind
hold.
of tool does it?
It's
I know it's got to be
it's a piece of metal.
Right.
They're usually straight, and they have a little cove in it, and you can cut the material away. When you go in here, it has a hook, and you go in slowly, and you start. You can't see what's happening, but you can hear it. If you go too far, you break through.
Right.
And you'll hear the sound, and the sound sounds right if you're doing it right. But a garbage can of chips would come out of this.
Beautiful.
That much wood.
I love it. Great. Great.
So that took me to this. This is basically that as a bowl that I then carved because I wasn't happy with just that shape. And I wanted to look like a sea urchin. So inspiration was the sea, the ocean. And I wanted to make it like a sea urchin. And I give it to people and I say, what is this material? No one says wood.
Well, it doesn't feel like wood.
It doesn't feel, and that's
It's like an
exactly what I
amazing
wanted
thing.
to
Can we get a
achieve.
little close-up of this beautiful little piece. All this is carved. It was one solid piece, and then he carved all of these things. It's like a lot of work.
A lot of work, but
Time-consuming.
it's fun.
Beautiful
You
stuff.
lose control of time. Then it took me to this piece, which was my first real carving piece. And this is, I found a bunch of starfish on the beach.
Yeah, see.
I took them home and I said, what can I do with this? And I traced them out on the wood bowl that I made. And then I said, I want to remove as much material so I have an enormous amount of negative space. And the starfish just speak for themselves. And I've made a series of these. I made like a couple of big ones in a circle holding hands. And it's like, I call it Poseidon's crown. I made another one as a vessel coming up like this for my daughter's wedding, and I called it Reaching for the Stars.
Oh, okay.
So
This
is
is wood,
become
by the way. These starfish are wood. All right, we got to move along.
Yeah. This is a carved piece influenced from Matisse, the dancers of Matisse. Matisse has been a big influence on me. Again, removing a lot of material.
But this is beautiful. This is, again, it's what you did here. Is you trace it on the wood first.
Yes.
Great. I love it. Got a picture of this, guys? Matisse. Matisse. Beautiful stuff.
So another artist that it's inspired me is Rene Magritte, and he's a surrealist. And if you look at that,
And this was a solid piece of wood
yes.
at one point, right?
So this was like a vase. And then I cut the spiral out. And he has spirals in his... A lot of the surrealists have spirals for the brain and all that. But so here, it's if you look at it in this direction, it's all daylight. And if you look at it in this direction, it's night. And he'll do a scene of a man standing on a bridge with a dog, and it's daylight and the sky is night.
Well, this is pretty amazing. When I first touched this thing, I thought you were making plastic. It feels like plastic. What kind of finish is on here?
It's acrylic paint.
Great. It's a whole nother medium.
Yeah.
It's on a whole nother life. Now, this here, to me, this is pretty amazing. This is School of Rock, almost.
That's called Biker Chick.
This is unbelievable. Now,
So this came from, and there's a series of them. I made a vessel, a vase, and it cracked. And I was very disappointed. And I said, what am I going to do with this? So I put a zipper in it. This one's called Twisted Sister.
how did you get this? Well, I'm giving away trade secrets here.
There's no trade secret. It's just the imagination.
Does it work, the zipper?
When you glue it, it sort of ruins it.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's okay. It'd be hard to pull it together.
This is really cool stuff. This is beautiful stuff. I love this stuff.
Hey, before we run out of time, and I know there's more, I made this for you.
Oh, shit. What I did is I sent him some granola, like 1.5 pounds granola, and he made me a little granola bar. Look at this. Can you get a close-up of the granola? It's amazing.
And it's got my signature pencils on it.
This is beautiful. Thank you, brother. Wow, this is very unexpected.
It could be a family heirloom like
This
this
is
piece.
this is going with the sneakers, man. This is unbelievable. This is great. I love it.
I hope you have it for a long time.
I know we're running out of time. I want you to show this thing real quick and the history on this, but you got to make it quick.
So this is a wood book that my family inherited. Was given by an uncle who was a prisoner of war. My father got over to France when he just got out of the prisoner of war camp. His friend made this. I grew up with it. I was always
This actually
intrigued.
came out of prisoner of war?
Yeah. It was made by a prisoner of war.
This particular one?
Absolutely.
Oh my
That's
God.
the piece, 1941. And for years I said, I have to figure out how to make this. I was finally ready to make this about 3 months ago. I figured it out. It involves turning, carpentry, and all kinds of stuff. And it's a puzzle box. And it's called Prisoner of War Art or Trench Art.
This is amazing stuff, man. This is really terrific. This is one of your latest works, then.
That's,
right?
yeah, one of the latest pieces.
Beautiful.
This is the latest. This is the last thing I
Right,
did.
that is the edible. It's edible. Anyway, listen, I wish we had more time. How much more time we got, guys? Okay. Give your websites out. I want you to check out his websites, guys.
Okay, so my website is www.aaturning, stands for Alan Adler Turning, TURNING.com. I also have a website on Etsy, AA Turning, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. Love to make friends with all you guys.
Also, his other company is www.casesbysource.com. You got to check out the cases that he makes. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I want to thank you, Alan. It's
Been too long.
It's been 60 years too long. It's crazy. I can't believe we connected on this stuff. Anyway, the last thing I want you to do, I want you to sign my wall.
Love to.
My wall of fame, not shame, wall of fame. And again, thank you for watching. Like us, subscribe to us. And if you ever want to come to my place, you got a story to tell, just hit me up. We'll be there. Later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching My Place with Goody and our special guest, Mr. Alan Adler, entrepreneur, woodworking extraordinaire. And it's been 67 years since we probably last met each other. And I want to thank you. Please like us. Please subscribe to My Place with Goody. Give Alan some exposure. We like him. I like him. I just met him and I like him. And after 67 years, well, not that long really, it's like almost 60,
1967.
almost 60 years, I'm going to sign the Canarsie yearbook of Mr. Alan Adler. All time coming.
Final.
Here we go.
Isn't it another lecture? Thank you, man.
All right, folks, we're out. Next one is coming.